Have you ever had the occasion of meeting a very compassionate person? A compassionate person. Now, what happens when that encounter happens? Well, somehow you are explaining or they're aware of some problem, some issue, some struggle, some situation in your life, and the compassionate person connects with you somehow. There's some sort of a relationship that in and of itself has an amazing effect. Compassion is one of these almost immeasurable and precious virtues that we know, that we hear about, that we experience. It is actually one of the virtues that God ascribes to himself in the Old Testament. For I am compassionate, God says. St. Paul writes to the Christian community in Ephesus and says, be compassionate. Just like God is compassionate, you too, be compassionate. And when you think about compassion, it's easy to mix it up with other things. For example, compassion is not pity. Pity is like sort of staying above whatever is going on. Like, I really pity you down there. Sorry for your troubles, buddy. But compassion, that goes right into it. That really connects. So maybe it would look like this. Let's say you slam your finger in a car door. Ouch. And I say, what happened? What's wrong? I hit my finger as I slammed it in the door. Well, that was a stupid thing to do. That's compassionate, right? Not quite, right? And it really, really hurts. Well, then why did you do it? No, not too much compassion here. Compassion looks very different. Compassion moves into the actual experience of the person, recognizes the depth of the person's suffering, and is in unity with them. The same feeling from the Latin words cum and passio, the same feeling as the person who is feeling, whether that's joy or whether that's sorrow. Jesus shows this amazing compassion to the woman in the synagogue. He sees her, it says. The scripture passage from Luke says, he sees her and he calls out to her. He must have clearly understood the incredible suffering for all these years of this dear lady. He calls out to her and heals her. And his compassion for her steps out of all the particular bounds that the synagogue authorities are worried about, that you can't heal on the Sabbath and so forth. And he confronts them and says, no, compassion overrides everything. To be compassionate. To be compassionate. We've all known that experience. We've met people. We've had instances in our life when people have been truly compassionate. And when that happens, it's not just the act of the person being compassionate, but the effect, the actual experience of being touched by compassion actually has a sense of healing us, has a way of somehow alleviating, lifting up some of our suffering and some of our pain. Compassion. And so we are assured, once again, in the sacred scriptures, that our God is a God of compassion. And that every one of us, all the time, whatever the circumstance, whatever the moment, we are always invited to turn to this God of compassion. God's compassion is unconditional. It knows no limits. It has no filters on it. We're inclined to put filters on that. God doesn't. God's compassion is always present there. But that's not the whole story. There's another piece, a really big piece. God gives us this compassion so that, having received it, we're to give it away. We, in fact, having been the beneficiaries of such compassion, we're to share it with others. Precisely. In all of history, in all of human history, there is one act that is the greatest act of all compassion. The greatest of all. The incarnation. The incarnation. The Son of God. Though he was in the form of God, we read in Philippians, he didn't deem that to be something he was going to hold on to. Rather, he emptied himself. God became human, like you and me. The greatest act of all compassion. That our God becomes same flesh, same bones, same reality of knowing our human condition. This is our God. We can't ever doubt that our God is the God of compassion, just as that we can never doubt, having received such compassion, that we are not called upon to wonderfully, gratefully receive it, and then to give it away, and then to give it away. Think about what would happen if we did. Let's talk about it finally in this way. The economy of God. How about this? An economist, an economic theory. God's economy is an abundance of compassion for everyone. And then everyone gives it away. What would the world look like? What would the world look like? The example, of course, each moment, each time we celebrate Eucharist is the experience once again of God's compassion. Our loving God emptying himself for us to set us free, to fill us with his love, so we in fact will live giving it away.